Greetings and hallucinations to all you folks out there. I have got a wonder game for you today, as you can see loading up there in the background, and it is a 3 versus 3, which is not something that you very often see on Wonder. Let's go ahead and introduce the teams, and then we will dive straight into the action. On the north side, we've got Flawless Noob, which is a thing that you very, very rarely see. He is going UEF, First Land, PGen, Mechs, probably going to go for the Hydro very, very soon. You can see his queue right there. And then I am sure that he will be getting air probably second next to the Hydro. Zarin doing the same thing. He is Cybrin. You can get 4 mass extractors, a land factory, and the Hydro off your storage, and then worry about building other things. So he is not building anything until after he walks other than mass extractor. Bugs Bunny is going for Seraphim. I wonder if this was a randoms or intentional. I am not entirely sure, but he has Seraphim nonetheless. He's got the PGen, he's got the Mass Extractor, he's got the first Scout, which are going to head down this way and park on top of Mass Extractors. Interesting thing about the Selens that you may not know, they've got a cloaking ability. So if you enable the cloak, park it on top of a Mass Extractor, you can't see the dang things until you get the Omni in the area. Typically an ACU. And so you can't build on it unless you bump the dang Selen off of it or ground fire it or something. So yeah, that can be a royal pain in the buttocks for the enemy team, all the while the Selens are sitting there collecting free intel. Cool beans. Inspector Cott is Aeon, and he has gone for the first land, same build as the other air player did, and he is getting 3 more PGens and then an air factory over here. Meanwhile, reclaiming all of this stuff and building up his mass extractors. We've also got White Owl on the south side. He is Aeon as well. First land, second air, you know the drill. This is starting to all look the same. What on earth is that? I'm going to call him Bin. He is now Bin. Bin has got a land factory and another land factory and an air factory building. So he is probably going to be stalling. Yep, incoming mass stall. Well, at least he got both of his land factories online. He is now not going to have enough mass to build his mass extractors, which are going extremely slowly. This is the point where you should probably be thinking about pausing things and attempting to get your mass situation in order. Let's go ahead and control shift. You know there's a lot of reclaim on Wonder. Things of note, rocks in the middle, more rocks in the middle, rocks in every crater, T2 transport right over here, and this is actually symmetrical, so this person is closer to this T2 transport and this person is closer to this T2 transport. So yeah, there's not any kind of unfair advantage, even though the transport on each side is closer to one side or the other. It's kind of like Settins. Settins is the example that's a go-to, but that's because it's a popular map and it does it well. It is an asymmetrical map that is evenly balanced. So, like rock versus beach is horribly imbalanced in favor of rock, typically more so as you move into the late game. But the map as a whole comes out even because both sides have a strong side and a weak side. So, yeah, that's how that thing works. So, Seraphim player, Bugs Bunny, dropping in some more land factories. He is going for a lot of power on this side as well. So maybe we'll be seeing a buttload of T1 air from him, although that may just be that he is building PGens in a way that won't easily get killed in multiples by a bomber. We've got a whole bunch of land factories for Flawless Noob. Oh my goodness, so many of them. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 already built and 3 more planned for a total of 8. First engagement is already happening over on the right-hand side. Bin is going head-to-head versus the units from Zarin, which is a little bit weird because they're not exactly opposite each other. But you know, if you're playing a team game, you should be contributing anywhere on the map that you can. And so not sticking to your zone is not necessarily a bad thing. We've got the 6th land factory going down for Zarin. We've got 6 total planned for White Owl, who is purple, and I'm going to have a hard time remembering that. Why on earth did you not go white? It wasn't even taken, and it would have fit your name so well. It made everything easier. Here's a T1 bomber coming around that has unfortunately already been scouted. He is going to get a... Yep, there it is. Going to get an engineer kill before he dies. maybe that's worth it since it's an expansioneer that's quite a ways from home. I'm not sure exactly what that stutter was, but hopefully it does not come back. Zarin moving back a little bit here. He is trying to... Nope, his ACU is actually wandering. He was trying to reclaim something that was just a little bit out of reach of his commander, and therefore the commander walked to try to get closer to it. Not something you want to have happening. It looks like Flawless Noob and Inspector Cut are going to end up being the ones with the most mass extractors, unless, of course, their teammates start claiming mexes over in this direction. So it's a bit weird, even though this is the back position, which is technically air if you're playing the fully fledged Wonder with 4 or 5 or maybe even 8 players. This is a land position because you got to secure control of all of this crap over here. So it's a little bit of a weird offset. Plenty of units coming for Bugs Bunny despite his few land factories, although that may start to dwindle in the face of the gargantuan amount of build power planned by Inspector Cott. That is going to be brutal if he can get the mass together to maintain it. He only has 35 income at the moment, and his power is failing him. So I am not exactly sure where he is going to get the wherewithal to run all of these factories. But more power to him if he can, right? Right. So much spam. And on Wonder Open, you gotta have the spam. If you build point defense, the enemy's just gonna go around it. That's all there is to it, because there is no way to control this much real estate with stationary objects. Bugs Bunny getting a couple more land factories down on the front. He's getting land factories actually spaced out pretty well across most of his forward mexes, and he does already have a T2 land factory. 7 minutes, it's a bit early for T2 in my book, but hey, if he's got the mass to handle it, go for it, man. That'll also give him access to the mighty Ilshava, and he's going to be building TAC missile defense very, very early so that he doesn't lose any of his mexes, which is a very wise decision indeed. So, I was casting a game just a bit ago where a Cybern land HQ was killed by a single TML because it only has 5,000 HP. The Seraphim does not have that weakness. It has 7,000, so it survives with 1k. Interesting how the faction advantages and disadvantages have been changed by the last few patches, no? Flawless Noob getting another land factory down on the forward line, and again, as I've said many times before, the advantage of having the factories closer to the front is that when you change your unit compositions, they hit the front lines faster. So if you need to have more anti-air, but you're way up on the front lines with your units and your factories are way over here in the back, by the time the anti-air gets to the front, the damage is already done. Whereas if you have a couple of factories a little bit closer, then you are going to be able to defend yourself much, much quicker with a change in strategy. Zarin looks like he's got the T2 upgrade on his ACU. That would definitely be the case. And so does Bugs Bunny. Looks like Bugs is in a little bit of a hard spot here. He's got a lot of Auroras right outside of his established position, and those Auroras are ranging him at the moment. So he needs to move those T1 tanks up in order to break those lines and give him room to build a point defense. Once he gets a couple of T2 point defense online, those Seraphim T2 PD are going to be able to kill 2 to 3 Auroras per firing cycle as they flit through groups, depending on how closely packed the Auroras are and the terrain, because of course it's a beam weapon. I think Wonder is flat enough that those shouldn't have any problems. Nope, not unless something gets behind the crater over here. So, I'm wondering why I'm having so much frame rate loss at the moment, because my CPU is not loaded and my GPU should not be having trouble with this, but I'm getting a lot of stutter. Very weird. We'll have to investigate that later. Alright, Flawless Noob backing up as the units collect for Bin. I think right now there is a slight unit advantage over here, but it is not very much. That is an unupgraded commander, and we've got T2 engineers moving up from the back and a T2 ACU over here. So advantage to the right, despite the fact that Flawless Noob has access to quite a substantial amount of mexes over here. He lost this corner, and so it's about even right now. Ben has got 49 income, and Flawless Noob has got 55. But it looks like the air production is strong with Flawless Noob, so that is setting back his potential tank budget. He has managed to fit a mass T2 upgrade in that budget, though. He's got 3 support factories and an HQ that is heavily assisted, building pillars like mad. So those are going to be headed up to the front line, which should increase his combat effectiveness by quite a bit once they get there. The problem is that there's already a reasonably good little fire base set up over here with enough units to defend it. Now, I know that I said earlier that you don't want to build point defense, and I stand by that statement. But the modification to that statement is, or the exception to the rule, I'm not sure how I should phrase this son of a gun, is that you can use point defense as a fallback position to reinforce mobile troops. What you don't want is so much of your mass invested into a point defense array that you don't have any mass left over for some mobile units. So then all your opponent has to do is either build air or build mobile missile launchers, and he can cruise in at will and destroy all of your fortifications, and then you're screwed. If you are going for 100% mobile units, for area denial, defensive structures are actually very, very good. So ideally, you would have a couple of point defense, maybe in strategic choke points and locations, even though there are no choke points on Wonder. That is a gun radar commander, and that is a strong tool on the early battlefield since you can outrange, well, I'm not sure if you can actually outrange T2 point defense, but you can definitely stay well outside their vision radius. And I know you can outrange T1 point defense entirely with that ACU. Basically what I'm trying to say is that point defense can be a good thing in small numbers. Now, Ben is going a little bit overboard with this strategy, but he is being very effective. He is locking down an entire quadrant of the map. He is spending only his ACU's build power in point defense in order to keep a fallback position, and he is at the same time maintaining a great enough force that he can counteract what his opponent is throwing at him. So this is probably the heaviest balance of point defense you're going to want to buy into while still saving your map control. Is anybody approaching T3 right now? I think not, and I've not seen any T3 units. There is a T2 transport coming up. There is not. I thought that was going to be an upgrade right there, but it isn't. There's one. We got a Seraphim T3 HQ coming. Ilshiva's falling under heavy fire. Unfortunately, the mass discrepancy is a bigger factor than the unit strength discrepancy. Once you get into a situation like that, it does look like there's some hot plates coming down from Zarin, but he is going to have to pull those back to try to deal some damage to these units over here. Now, the point defense on this side are going to be of great assistance as they just kind of, they're just close enough to the fight that they can discourage, that's a good word, discourage the movement of troops in this direction. It is very weird as I'm getting back into casting. I'm realizing that since I haven't been doing this all the time, I think my vocabulary has shrunk just a little bit. I gotta start reading again, and I gotta start yammering on your ears again even more, because I don't want to get so rusty that I start repeating myself constantly. We got some mercies on the field. This could potentially be super bad because air control looks like Inspector's got it. There's no anti-air over here on the front line, and oh, there goes the first mercy. Bugs Bunny's got to have realized that this is a problem by now. Here comes the remainder, and no, 700 health. It wasn't enough. He needed one more mercy. There's units coming up from the back. Maybe that will get it. He's just got to get in range. 100 HP left, 76 and down. Those obsidians, the obsidians as some people call them, were able to shred the HP off that commander. It was just enough that he has now fallen in battle. Well, Zaren's got his work cut out for him. Either he's going to have to reclaim like mad and come out on top thanks to all of the extra mass income, or he is going to fold under the weight of all of the units that are now going to circle around this side. Let's hope he's got enough build power for what he needs to do. Those are Medusa drops. This is going to be fun, guys. Let's see what happens here. The Obsidians, as I've said before, do 400 damage per shot, 100 DPS, firing once per 4 seconds. So they're much like a T2 Percival minus the massive range bonus. So it's kind of a bad unit to get stuck amongst, because if you misstep and you take 2 or 3 extra shots, it's way more damage than 2 or 3 shots from pretty much any other tank. Here come the transports. Are they on the radar? They are not, but there is a blip of vision as they come over the mass extractor. T1 interceptors moving, but it is going to be too late. Those transports dropping full loads. That was a stealth unit. That's why they were not showing up on radar. Dropping full loads of Medusas, immediately taking out a TG mass extractor there. And there, another about to fall to ACU. The only damage that he's got in the back at the start of this, he does have some Obsidians moving up, but it is going to be too late. Lost 3 T2 mass extractors. He's going to lose a T2 B-Gen, and he might even lose 2. Those Medusas should have been moving by now. That is a lot of damage on this one due to the explosive nature of power generators, but that is not enough shots in the air to kill that T2 mechs. I think that drop was well worth it though. Lots of damage was dealt, and that is going to be a frustrating thing to rebuild for Inspector. His power is still holding strong, but that may be due to some manipulation of his eco, because there are some things paused or stopped at the moment. He will recover. He does have T3 mechs, and he does have a lot of mass, but it is definitely a setback. Over here on the right-hand side, a bit of a weird air battle, but Flawless Noob is going to come out on top with the air win. He is trying to stream pillars around the top side, but there are loads of pillars waiting, ready to end that little intrusion into the territory. And it does look like Ben has got a better unit mix. He's got some shields up in there, which provide a lot of HP. Oh, bit of a misplaced force there, though. It looks like some of these might get through, but the shields coming in to buy that little bit of extra HP those tanks need to survive. And there is a T1 point defense going down right there, which will not even be built until after those things pass. Well, they would have built it had they not all died to T1 bombers. Zaren has locked down this entire side, and he's got T3 on the field. So the first loyalist of what I am sure will be many is heading towards the front line, as the rest of these pillars that have tried so desperately to get past and get some damage done are harassed to death by a T1 bomber and what will soon be 5 pillars all up in their business. This is going to be the end of that valiant attempt. I do like the massive quantity of MML that are over on this side. It has forced Ben into building a buttload of tac defense, which, as we all know, are not very cost effective versus mobile missile launchers. Basically, the TMD costs more than an MML, and it takes slightly more than 1 TMD to counter 1 MML. So you're mass behind no matter what. And getting into a situation like this where you're having to protect your fire base with your ACU building TMD, yeah, you got yourself screwed. This is why you need that mobile force that I was talking about earlier. You're going to be able to take this, push up. Since this person has devoted so much mass to MMLs, that means by default he has less mass to devote to tanks, and you should be able to sweep him off of his feet and push him all the way back into his base. I say should because, you know, games don't always go perfectly. In fact, they rarely go perfectly. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got a couple of gunships moving in to maybe kind of sort of try and harass a couple of things. This is, I think, going to be a successful run by. We got Harbingers, we've got Obsidians, we've got only T1 defending. Put those three things together, and I think you end up with a successful run by. There are Loyalists headed over in that direction, though, and some bricks. Looks like Zarin has got a pretty dang good unit mix going on over here. He is going to be able to cut that off if he moves a bit more this way. That is the problem with Harbingers. Sometimes you underestimate the speed with which they can move, and then you end up losing stuff as they traipse through the back of your base where you didn't think they would ever get. We've got some sniper bots. The sniper boats are a bit of an interesting choice. I'm not entirely sure what he plans on using them for. But if he can find a use for them, all the more power to him. Those are going to outrange T2 point defense, so that might be one of the potential use cases. Alright, mass extractor down, a couple other things, but the Loyalists have now descended upon the Harbingers. They're going to knock them out with a vengeance. That was a little bit of a hard loss there, though. That's 6 mass extractors and a fairly substantial amount of engineers and whatnot that were killed in that intrusion. Over on this side, we do have a couple of demolishers. T3 mobile artillery work exceptionally well for eradicating fire bases. So this is going to throw another kink in the works for Bin. Does he have T3 land yet? I think so. There it is. He is about to get what I think is his first Percival out. Nope, there is the first one right there, headed towards the front line. So he is going to be able to defend himself rather well with that. In the back here, let's just take a look around and see what's going on. We got some T2 power building up. Probably no T3 air in the near future for that player, but White Owl has taken the initiative, and he's got a T3 air factory right there building ASF. And of course, the Swift Winds from the Aeon player are going to be a substantial force for good for their team. TML flying in towards, yep, there it is. T2 mass extractor down. That's a frustrating hit anytime one of those connects. Sniper bots moving back. Of course, boats work better when they're kites, but those are not going to escape because of the T1 bombers that come in. Those, yeah, they're fragile little units. I was trying to remember the HP that they have off the top of my head, and I do not, but I think it is less than 1,000, maybe 750, 800 range, or I might be thinking of hoplites and mongoose in that. Somebody's going to correct me, I am sure, in the comments. Actually, I could look it up. Let's click on this, click on a factory, and go over here. They have 450 health. So, not very much at all. Okay, that's two T1 bombers, I think, to kill them. So, yeah, that's you're going to have a bad time if you got a lot of those. We've got bricks on the front line, and this is exactly what the sniper bots are supposedly going to counteract. If you're going by theoreticals and what the units should be doing and how things should be working, which, as we've said before, things are never ideal, you should have a lot of sniper bots under some shields with Harbingers in front. So the sniper bots are going to be able to deal an excruciatingly high amount of damage before the bricks even come into range, and then the Harbinger should be able to clean up the mess, and you should never be losing sniper bots because they should never be in range of the bricks. And that's how it's supposed to work. But that requires micro, and that requires planning, and that requires unit movement, which requires APM. And so rarely does it happen. Usually you just see massive groups of Harbingers roaming the fields, and then they die horribly to bricks and Percivals, as we are about to see here. So we're going to actually take a look at this. We're going to go to White Owl, who has got a total of 18 Harbingers. Actually, this is a lot closer than I thought it was. Zarin has got 15. And, of course, bricks cost quite a bit more than Harbingers do, so this is a huge mass advantage on this side. This is not by any means a fair comparison. These bricks are absolutely going to wreck the faces off of those T3 units that they are coming up against. On the north side, we've got some more T1 bombers coming across, and T1 bombers are exceptionally good with their AoE for just dealing a lot of damage. And when you're talking about clumps of units like this, you can actually justify throwing them away, because if they hit 3 or 4 units in one pass, they've dealt definitely their mass worth in damage, and basically you use them like you would T3 artillery, just softening up those groups of units, maybe focus firing some of the lower HP ones to try to get them off the map. This is about to be very bad. We've got a horrifying amount of bricks moving in on the back base. Inspector Core is dangerously close to the front. Inspector Cott, excuse me, is dangerously close to the front with his commander. He is trying to build a GC, but I don't think he's going to be successful there. There's a swarm of Harbingers trying to protect him. White Owl doing his best to save his teammate, but I don't think that's going to be successful. Bricks kiting backwards, not going to lose a single brick. Oh, nope, there. Oh, yeah. As soon as I said it, I'm proven wrong. The caster's curse in effect. Only losing 1 brick of that entire engagement and killing all of those Harbingers and T2 units. That is a very, very good example of why bricks and things with longer range are better in general. Percivals, you just up the damage by 25 DPS and figure in the alpha, and they're even that much stronger again. Bricks moving into engagement range now with the Harbingers, which are going to have more damage per mass than the bricks do, but they are hampered by a short range and a low health pool, and the bricks are going to come out on top again. Over here on this side, we got a T2 transport, which is probably on call for the ACU to escape should that be necessary. On the north side, Blue was able to fend off all of the units from Purple. He gradually tore them apart through continuing damage, both from demolishers and from those T1 bombers that we were looking at earlier. And in the end, Bin is going to be stuck in the back, trying to build his base and fending off a vastly superior force. Flawless Noob at 135 income and Bin at 187. So Bin should be able to build something that would get him out of this situation since he has the higher income. Inspector Cott has got to run. No, he's gotten in range of the bricks. T3 PGen going down. It's going to kill all of his build power and shred half the health off that commander. That is bad news. You shouldn't have stopped, bud. You need to run. There's a T2 transport right over there. If you can just get to it. He is trying to finish this GC in order to get those units out of his base. Brick decided that the ACU was not worth it since it was standing next to a mostly completed GC and the Harbingers were in that direction. And now the bricks are going to die to a pair of Harbingers and a single gunship. And now there's a GC. All hope is not lost. That was a heavy hit from the North team, but the GC might be able to bring it back. Do you see what I see? A strat, flying through the sky. It's bringing death, yo. Well, at least he's under a shield, so he's not going to die immediately, but the second pass is definitely going to get him if these ASF are not able to kill every single one. 2 bombs and he's dead. There's 2 strats alive, 1 bomb off. No! He's going to survive. That means that this GC is going to be able to make the trek across the map. How successful it will be, I do not know, because there are still quite a substantial number of bricks along with a good number of trebuchets that are going to be dealing damage against all of those things, and strats are incoming. 1 strat, 2 strat, dead Inspector Cott. Well done, Zarin. That is going to save his front line a whole lot of grief, and actually that GC had successfully mopped up a large number of the troops that were over there with the help of the Harbingers coming in from White Owl. So That could have potentially ended very, very badly for Zeren. He did have a Monkey Lord in the back, which, as we all know, cannot kill a GC in a one-on-one altercation, especially if the GC is backed up by a group of units. So killing that ACU eliminated the problem on the front line. Transport's dropping engineers over here. Look at the mass on this side. Loads and loads of it. Probably a good 10,000 to 15,000 mass right over here. If either of these teams can get their teeth in that and churn out a couple of T4s, they're going to take this game, because right now we're sitting at a little bit of a stalemate. We got some T3 artillery over here, T3 artillery over here, lots of shields, quite a few units. I think at this particular moment I would give Flawless Noob the advantage because of all the Percivals. Over here, there are a handful of Percivals, but not anywhere near that many, and there's almost no point defense over here. There's maybe 6 T2 point defense, maybe 10. Most of these are TMDs and shields. There's a couple of T1s, but point defenses can be shrugged off pretty easily by a rampaging group of Percivals. Monkey Lord moving in. There are a lot of Harbingers over here. That Monkey Lord's going to have to kite. There he is, running away from the main group. He just wants to pick them off one by one as they come closer and not take damage from the entire group at once, turning back around to head in again. The Monkey Lord has slightly longer range than the Harbingers and slightly less walking speed, I think. So, it's kind of the same principle as an Aurora and a Mantis. If you kite the Aurora back, it only takes a few shots and it's able to deal huge amounts of damage. Although this Monkey Lord is... Nope, there it is. Got the veterancy. He's got the pool of HP now that is deep enough to weather the majority of these Harbies. Dipping down into the red range. There's another veterancy. He's going to keep on vetting. Just keep vetting. We're going to go... Yep, there it is. I saw that coming and I was going to go over there, but I wasn't fast enough. The Percivals had moved up, just soaking the damage with their huge amount of HP and just pounded through that shield to kill the commander behind. There goes the Monkey Lord. The Harbingers finally finished it off, but now they've got a bunch of bricks to deal with, and it is 2 versus 1, and the 1 does not really have that much of a base. This is bad news for the Southside team. Percivals are dumping 1,600 damage every 4 seconds. So if you get them in a synchronized firing cycle, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there were maybe 8 there. So each 2 is dealing 3,200 times 4 would be 12,800 damage per firing cycle. So 1 firing cycle plus 1 shot would kill a T2 UEF commander. White Owl has taken a knee using that Control K escape route, and Zeren and Flawless Noob are going to take the win. That was a solid game. They lost a guy early. They had some setbacks for sure, but obviously they did win out in the end. OP Percivals, am I right? Alrighty guys, that is going to wrap it up for me on this one. Do not forget, if you have some replays floating around, send them my way. There is a link in the description to the Discord chat that you can join if you so wish. There's a lot of people over there playing a lot of different strategy games. Good community to be a part of, and then you can private message me there with any replays that you happen to have. Or there is an email address in the description that you can use to attach files and send to me directly. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.